Dr. Lai is with us. Thanks for the conversation.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Dr. Lopon.
Uh, Looks like you are having a good discussion. Um, anyway, I'm still in Malaysia. Greetings from Malaysia. It's exactly 12 hours ahead of New York time right now. So it's 7:50 a.m. Uh, let's see. Facebook is wanting attention. Okay. So anyway, mm, as I think you all know, I am now in Asia and is going to remain here till the end of the month. And then early May, I should be back in the US. Mm. So, also from last time, I think I mentioned that among the things that I'm doing while away is I am working on mm, a translation of one of the key collections of Gampopa's teachings. Mm, I think very famously, Gampopa's what's often translated as the jewel ornament of liberation. That is very well known in the West, and is indeed a kind of a key text authored by Gampopa. That text has maybe around 4 or 5 English translations, and probably translated as well into Spanish and other Western languages. There's a second text also by Gampopa that has been translated maybe 2, 3 times into English, maybe also into Spanish, which is called the Lamcho Rinchen Trenwa, the precious garland, the precious mala of the uh, path of the supreme path. Mm. So that is also very well known in the West. Less well known is many other shorter collections of Gampopa's teachings. And the particular one that I have been looking at has been translated at least once already into English. And it's part of a book, that I mentioned last time. Yeah, Confusion Dawning as Wisdom. I think it's given a title like that, which is a book that consists of Ringu Toku Rinpoche's teachings on this particular text, which is called Gampopa's Great Teachings to the Assembly, or maybe can also be translated more literally as the the big collection or the large collection of teachings to the assembly. So, teachings to the assembly, or Sokche, is a genre of Buddhist teachings, which is often not authored as a written text. So it didn't start off as somebody sitting down to compose a text, but rather Sokche, or the teachings to the assembly, you could say, transcripts slash summaries slash notes that disciples took of the guru teaching to the general gathering of disciples. footnote, general here means not like our kind of general, like a lama comes to town, gives a general public talk. Just about anybody may turn up or may not turn up, or even regular members may not turn up because, I've heard this before, I'm not coming. It's for the general. In the context of Gampopa and Kyopa Jigten Sumgan, the assembly are the assembly of people who live and practice with them. And so this is the assembly of practitioners, monastic and non-monastic, meaning those who have formally taken monastic vows and those who have not yet taken monastic vows. I think even when we use these terms, lay and monastic, that is not covering all the gray areas. And then we tend to think of lay and monastic the way we think of lay and monastic today, but that's not doesn't reflect the reality on the ground. So in these early Kagyu communities, the people who come and live and practice with the Lama, with the Guru, they are like, a few 100% dedicated. Yeah, a few 100% dedicated, not just once a week dedicated, or even 5 times a week dedicated. They have upended their lives, move everything, given away everything, and move to such communities. And in these communities, so famously, Kyopa Jigten Sumgyen's teacher, Pamudrupa, who was Gampopa's disciple, one of Gampopa's chief disciples, famously, they have this rule, where if you come and you decide to join their community, you have one day, maybe one day and night, but one day, to do what? To build your residence, so to say. So you put up a shack to protect you from the worst of the cold winds that may come. And then after that one day, no more messing around with your living conditions. So this is the assembly that we're talking about. Okay. So I caught the tail end of the discussion. I didn't hear everything, but I think we need to be realistic about how the Dharma may or may not change the way we behave, which is the outer aspect, and the way we respond, which is the inner aspect. There's a lot of sales pitch, hyperbole, like, oh, if you do this practice, this will happen. Or if you do that practice, that will happen, Not so, What really needs to happen, as you work on techniques, methods, upaya, as you work on techniques and methods, as you learn, maybe doing this will help this way, maybe doing that will help that way, maybe doing that will help that way, maybe doing that will help that way. Yes. One reason why we gather as a community is that we learn what may be helpful techniques and methods, upaya, skillful methods, to kind of short circuit things in a good way, to speed up certain processes. Yes, but that is secondary to changing attitude. changing attitude. So the basic attitude in these teachings to the assembly, Gampopa, so this large collection has many different topics. It's more than one teaching put together into sections. In many of these sections, no matter what the main topic that Gampopa is talking about, right, he frequently begins by reminding us, by emphasizing this aspect of changing attitude. So the most basic attitude is, are you done with samsara or not? Mostly not. So let's be honest. Mostly not. I don't know about you. I'll speak for myself. Not speaking humbly, not speaking politely, not speaking to make a pretension. If I were to honestly answer that question, if my guru were to ask me that question, thou shalt not lie to thy guru, then I have to honestly say, no, I'm not done. So what is samsara? First of all, samsara is not a place. Samsara is not this world. Samsara turns up in places. Samsara turns up in places. But the place is not samsara. This world is not samsara. And there was another discussion, I think, on WhatsApp, asking about samsara and our relationship with samsara, about renunciation. Renunciation is always renouncing one's hold on samsara. It's not renouncing anything, but renouncing one's unwillingness to be done with samsara. As for that renunciation, it is not completed, it is not finished until one is a complete Buddha. So if we take this from the perspective of renunciation, you could say, finally, perfect, complete renunciation is achieved when one achieves Buddhahood. Because at that point, you are completely and thoroughly done with samsara. But in order to get to completely, fully done with samsara, we have to begin and work on, am I done with samsara or not? Again, if we're honest about, am I done with samsara or not, then the answer is mostly not. Mostly not. Until we gather like this once a week. Even though when we gather like this once a week, you may not be done yet with samsara, but there may be moments when we gather, when you hear someone talk, when you hear me say something, you may go, oh yes, I am done with samsara. So some moments of renunciation, yes, I'm done with samsara. Then soon after, maybe, no, not yet, no, not yet, or when we read some Dharma book and, often when you read some Dharma book, because you're in a good state of mind, you're in a good place, the temperature is perfect, the sound level is perfect, maybe some white noise in the background. Yeah, maybe some aromatherapy oil is being diffused in the room. Right? You pick up the right book, and then you're reading. Birds are chirping, and you can see that spring has just arrived. Then you read about some inspiring Dharma text, and then you say, ah, ah, you know, oh yes, samsara, I'm done with it. Uh, in another scenario, we may also feel like, and so those types of being done with samsara is mostly based on things are going well. Things are going well. Then you're inspired to be done with samsara. The other scenario, things aren't going well. Things are not going well. Then even when things are not going well, it's not automatic that you're done with samsara. If you're fortunate, when things are not going well, you know how to turn to Dharma. You know how to turn to Dharma. And then you pick up some Dharma text and you read. But now, of course, room temperature is not right. Mind is agitated. Every sound, even that chirping bird, seems to be noisy. But then, under this kind of circumstance, you might read about, how renunciation is necessary. But because things are not going well, you're fed up. You're like, yes, I'm done with samsara. So that is giving up samsara due to aversion and giving up samsara due to attachment. In both cases, very temporary. This feeling like I'm done with samsara, very temporary. True renunciation, I'm not talking about complete renunciation. I'm talking about true renunciation is based on seeing with a clear eye to the faults of samsara, of confused existence. Again, what is samsara? Gampopa's Jewel Ornament of Liberation introduction. Not the translator's introduction, but Gampopa's own introduction to the Jewel Ornament of Liberation. By the way, this reminds me, I have seen a version of the Spanish translation of Jewel Ornament that strangely left out this all-important introduction. They jump straight to chapter 1. Whoever translated that seemed to think that the introduction is not important. But the introduction is truly and truly very important. Because there it lays out very clearly. I've said this many times. I don't know who actually picks up. I saw one person now picked up their jewel ornament to look very good. In the introduction, it tells you, what is samsara and what is nirvana. And as different as samsara is from nirvana, there are certain things that are the same. But there are certain other things that are crucially different. If you really understand that introduction, then no more confusion what it is that you should renounce, what it is that you should be done with. Is to be done with. Another way of putting it is to be done with the kleshas, the afflictions. To be done with the kleshas. Now, As for being done with the kleshas, what do you think? Do I have to be done with all the kleshas? Well, what do you think? Can I keep some of the kleshas? Well, sure, you can do whatever you want. This is not a God-based system. Good news, you can do whatever you want. Bad news, no one is sitting there giving out excuses. Like, here is a free pass that allows you to stick your hand into open flame and not get burned. Sorry, no passes like that. But I really like fire. Yes, I understand. I mean, I understand, but I don't understand. But in any case, nobody can give you a free pass, so to say, that when you stick your hand in fire, it's not going to burn. Klesha is klesha. Not to be dogmatic. So, also, overall, Buddha Dharma is not a system that tries to legislate all aspects of your life. And so, good news, there isn't things like you have to cover your head this way, you don't need to cover your head this way, you need to cover this body part this way, you don't need to cover your body part this way, you can marry this person, you cannot marry that person, all of that. Yes, of course, Buddha gave general principles, and then more specific ones to those who want a more disciplined training. Yes, of course, in the vows, in the precepts of various types, those are all prescriptions, not commandments. But so many of us still relate to all these things as commandments. Then, when we relate to them as commandments, then we spend a lot of time either feeling good that I have fulfilled the commandments, so there is pride. Ah, yes. I'm so good now. Then, when things are not going well, how do you respond to commandments? Like a a teenager, upset at the parents for setting up so many rules. And then, if you have very fierce parents, then you don't even get a chance to complain. You lock yourself in the room and feel bad. Why do I have to follow this? Why? This is so unfair. We are carrying old baggage. And this is not Buddha Dharma. This belongs to some other system. This belongs to some other system. I grew up in a traditional Buddhist culture where things are taught often by osmosis. And human culture being human culture, there are similarities everywhere. Even with the Buddha Dharma, it can turn into more like a rule-based thing. So it's not like I don't understand where you're coming from. Don't project and think, oh, how fortunate you Asians. Oh, you don't understand my challenge. You were born Buddhist. No, I understand. Human culture being human culture anywhere, human beings being human beings anywhere. You can just turn anything back into that mindset of here are the rules. Follow it, and you are good boy, good girl. And you even cheer yourself. Oh, I'm good boy, good girl now. Yes, reward is coming, reward is coming. Or bad, bad, bad. And then you want to fight against it. a very old Dharma friend student here, I understand, yes. Experiencing suffering and feeling like, asking the question, mm, why does a good person, have to suffer? Very genuine question, you know. But at a certain point, these are what Buddha calls the imponderables. Meaning, if you keep pondering these questions, you will get enmeshed in a thicket of views. Buddha call it a thicket of views. Like all this bramble, all these thorns, like blackberry thorns. Blackberry thorns are often growing alongside poison ivy, by the way. And if you try to go clear that, and you don't know how to do that, you will get all tangled up in a thicket of views. Curious minds want to know why, why, why. Buddha says there are two types of why. One type of why is all abstract. Why? What is the meaning of life? Why? Why? To that kind of why, Buddha mainly said, no end to asking that why. To the second kind of why, which is in this moment when suffering turns up, why? There, Buddha's answer is causality. So there are so many aspects of karmic causality. Again, even with karmic causality, people being people, human culture being human culture, you can also turn this into one of these big abstract things. Oh, because 7 lifetimes ago, blah, 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 blah. In the Karma series that I did recently, is to point out that's not the main thing that the Buddha is talking about. The Buddha wants us to look at why in the more immediate, like in this moment. In this moment where something unpleasant, something unacceptable, even something like you being upset with yourself, this has turned up. Now look. The immediate why to ask is, how does this suffering continue? It continues if I feed it. Yeah, so no need to go to the why of like, last week I did this, that. And so now I'm feeling this. Yes, that may be part of the causality, but don't go immediately so far back. In this moment, for this dukkha that I'm experiencing now, can I see what are the necessary conditions? What are the conditions that are necessary for the continuation of this experience of dukkha now, in this moment, and into the next moment, and into the next moment, and into the next moment? When we have developed enough skill, when we have developed enough mindfulness, which is actually what mindfulness is for. Mindfulness is not so you look good, you feel good, you have an image of being a mindfulness meditator. No, mindfulness is to instill in you enough of a presence of mind that when things get difficult, especially, but even when things get really good, there's always a presence of mind that doesn't stray from understanding. all of this are temporary arising experiences. For temporarily existing arising experiences, a certain number of conditions are necessary to perpetuate this mindset state, this experience, from this moment to the next moment to the next moment to the next moment. Look at the causality that you can look at right now. Causes and conditions right now. Is it dukkha or not? No need to go into justify or not, whose fault it is. Leave those things alone. Is this experience now dukkha or not? Is this experience temporary or not? Is this experience self or not? Buddha says, when you investigate in this way, this is skillful investigation. This is skillful why. Ask the kind of why that has the power to make a difference now. Make a difference doesn't mean, if I have enough mindfulness and I have enough investigation, it will disappear. No, it doesn't mean that. It could happen like that, but again, don't have so much expectations. But what I can say is, at the very least, if you have this kind of mindfulness and this kind of skill to investigate the moment-to-moment arising suffering or happiness, you gain certain muscles, so to say. And these are the muscles that free you from karma. The way that we talk about freeing yourself from karma. And here, freeing yourself from karma is not talking about, get away with, doing unskillful things. Here it means the karma of confusion you become free from. It may not immediately alleviate the yuck feeling that you're having now, but on the basis of this yuck, unaccepted feeling that you're having now, you have built up power. This is what Gampopa means, last time I mentioned. The inner armor. He says there's the outer armor that mahamudra practitioners should don. So the idea of armor is like, who puts on an armor? Who puts on an armor? Quickly, somebody. So that I can drink coffee, somebody can talk.
Warriors.
Warriors. So you're going to the battlefield. Yeah. So the mahamudra battlefield. Where is the mahamudra battlefield? Quickly.
Right here.
Right here, the mind. Yeah. The mind, right here. When you enter this mahamudra battlefield, it says, don the two armors. There's the outer armor and the inner armor. The outer armor is
Vows.
vows that protect you. Correct. Vows that protect you from creating causes of suffering of body, speech, and mind. That is the only reason Buddha gave any vows. Buddha didn't create vows, to kind of what we say. Buddha didn't create vows, to kind of make life boring. Buddha did not create vows, to stifle you. Every prescription, proscription, permission, prohibition found in his teachings are telling you when you get involved in that, that's likely what's going to happen. And so the outer armor is to be vigilant about not creating unskillful actions of body, speech, and mind. The inner armor, he calls it the inner armor of wisdom, or sometimes interchangeable with the inner armor of view. And there, in one instance, and then later his grand disciples said, when we speak of view, don't go in the direction of Madhyamaka, Yogacara, Abhidharma, blah, blah, blah. He says, that's the Pandita's way. The Mahamudra practitioners' view, he says, this is the view. Do not treat physical illness as an enemy. Do not treat mental anguish as an enemy. He says, if you have that view, if you have that wisdom, it trumps all those philosophical positions insofar as a Mahamudra warrior is concerned. Here is not saying, oh, those Madhyamaka, Chittamatra, Abhidharma, la la la, are not good. No, it's not saying that. It is saying the most direct way of handling suffering is to develop and strengthen this view or this understanding or this recognition that the physical and mental emotional suffering that we experience, if you were not a Mahamudra practitioner, it's understandable that you see no value at all in any of these things. But if you are a Mahamudra practitioner, where the battlefield is the mind, the heart, where that plays out, where samsara is recognized as not some place out there, but it's in the heart, it's in the chitta, then physical and mental emotional difficulties are to be embraced, not to be rejected. Of course, he gives real good guidance on how to embrace them. So in this section that I actually wanted to share, which I never get around to sharing, because the fundamentals are so important. I know, some of you are like, yeah, we have heard this before, we know what he's going to say next. I'm going to keep doing it until you are doing it, and I am doing it, as in actually practicing this, and not just, eh, 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 eh. You have emptied, all of this so that it's a left ear in, right ear out, right ear in, left ear out, full emptiness now, so nothing is retained. You have to go in here, down to the heart. Go in here, down to the heart. Change the heart. Change the chitta. So here, the precious Guru taught, in general, for taking practice into experience, for taking the path into one's own experience, one should remember impermanence and death. So this is what I was referring to way back. Like in many of these teachings, Gampopa never tires to go back to the foundation, the ngondro. This is ngondro. Unfortunately, these days people only think of ngondro as the 100,000s. The 100,000s are just method. Again, we have placed too much emphasis on methods. They are to go hand in hand. But this is the ngondro. The methods are to allow this other ngondro to truly become the foundation of what we practice, how we practice. So, for taking the path into one's own experience, meaning to really put yourself through this process, which is what path means, to truly put yourself through this process of awakening, one should remember impermanence and death. The Dhammapada says, those who do not remember that we all die waste our time fighting with the world. Those who don't remember that we all die waste our time away picking fights in the world. The world includes ourselves, if you pick your fight with yourself. Fight the kleshas. Kleshas are not self. Mahamudra warrior. Fight the kleshas. Should remember impermanence and death. Then remember karmic cause and effect. Especially the way that I was talking about karmic cause and effect. Then remember the faults of samsara. Remembering impermanence and death in the context of the 4 dharmas of Gampopa, that's the first dharma. May dharma turn towards dharma. How do you do that more and more and more? How do you make sure that dharma always goes along dharma? So the first dharma is your own understanding of dharma, need to go towards dharma. In the more recent version of the 4 dharmas of Gampopa, for the sake of maybe verbal elegance, it says, may my mind turn towards the dharma. In the earliest versions of dharmas of Gampopa, the oldest ones, Gampopa actually said, may dharma go towards dharma. It's actually a more subtle point and a more profound point. Of course, then maybe you can say there are 5 dharmas of Gampopa. May my mind, may my ordinary interest turn towards the dharma. Then now that it's turned towards the dharma, so now you think, oh, I have the dharma. But actually, so this is the subtle point. Our understanding of dharma is not yet guaranteed to go in the direction of dharma, as in the dharma that the Buddha taught. So to do that, to encourage that, to nurture that, reflect on impermanence and death. Death is not just talking about that big death. Death is talking about all the losses that we experience daily, weekly, monthly, all the disappointments, all the losses, all the fears that arise from being separated from what we like, and to be stuck with what we don't like. All those are deaths. Second Dharma of Gampopa. May the Dharma turn into my path, my process. Process of what? Process of awakening. And that, remember karmic cause and effect. And remember the faults of samsara. Then remember the faults of the lesser vehicle. This is not talking about other forms of Buddhism. Again and again, I said, when we read this material, when they talk about greater vehicle, lesser vehicle, indestructible vehicle, it's talking about attitudes that we have. And here, the faults of lesser vehicle is to be only concerned about our own happiness and suffering, and to be only working on our own happiness and suffering. You have to begin there, but you cannot stay there. You have to evolve. You have to develop to a point of understanding. As much as there's no out until we are determined to get out, which is necessarily focused on yourself. There's no out until you're determined to get out. But you also need to develop an understanding that that can become a fault if we just stay on that level. Now we need to consider the plight of everybody else. Then the next, and having remembered love, compassion, and bodhicitta, now cultivate these three elements. On the basis of love and compassion for all beings without exception, give rise to bodhicitta, which is what this is talking about. Remembered love, compassion, and bodhicitta. Now, to enter the uncommon great vehicle path of secret mantra, to enter this uncommon great vehicle path of secret mantra, where there are the two stages, creation and completion stages. So in this section, basically, Gampopa is teaching about the creation stage and the completion stage of deity yoga. Therefore, it was taught for those well established in the creation stage and desiring the completion stage, this method was taught by the perfect Buddha as being like the steps of a ladder. Vajradhara taught this dharma of the meditative equipoise of the two stages. So with regards to these two stages, the creation and the completion stages, Vajradhara, the primordial Buddha, has taught how to develop samahita in Sanskrit. Equipoise, that means settling into these two stages and letting the wisdom of these two stages arise as a result of cultivating these two stages. Now, regarding cultivating the creation stage, there are 6 aspects, which is the types of creation stage, the essence of creation stage, the definition of creation stage, the purpose, the measure of its stability, and the result of creation stage. 6 topics. types of creation stage. In essence, what is creation stage? If we are to define, how do we define creation stage? What is the function of creation stage? Purpose. How do we measure how stable, how well we are doing with our creation stage? And then the results of creation stage. So these are the 6 topics. The first aspect concerns the types of creation stage. There is creation, there is creating gradually following a sadhana, which is where we should all begin with, which is where most of us are introduced to creation stage practice. So then you attend an empowerment, and then you get a practice manual. That's the sadhana. Sadhana means means of accomplishment. So even though, in Vajrayana, I'm sure all of you know now, there's this deity and that deity, this deity and that deity, sometimes until, Buddha Shakyamuni. Wait, who? Yes, Buddha Shakyamuni, remember? So many deities with so many arms and legs and fangs and, weapons until we forget. Please don't do that, yeah? Anyway, these are means of accomplishments. This is not, worshipping a plethora of deities. And this is how do we become Buddha? Sadhana is the method for becoming Buddha. So there is the creating gradually following a sadhana. Out of emptiness arises the wind mandala. Above the wind mandala, fire mandala. Above fire mandala, water mandala. Above water mandala, the earth mandala. On the basis of earth mandala appears a lotus. In this lotus that blooms with 1,000 petals, and there is the sun disk, moon disk. On top of that are corpses. Then the seed syllable appears. The seed syllable gives out light, making offerings to all Buddhas in the 10 directions. Buddhas of the 10 directions send their blessings in the form of light, which is absorbed by the seed syllable, which is the nature of your own mind. Then this seed syllable transforms into the main implement of the deity. And so if you are practicing Vajrayogini, the Katri knife, the hook knife, and then this hook knife in the center of it has the seed syllable. And then again, light goes out and light comes back. Then this seed syllable transforms into Vajravarahi, and then the description of Vajravarahi. Then from the 3 places of Vajravarahi, light goes out, and bringing all the wisdom beings to dissolve into what now is called the Samaya being. That which you have created intentionally. It's like a shell. It's like a container. And that's called the Samaya being. Samaya being means commitment being. So how clear is this visualization going to be? It depends on how committed you are to again and again producing this shell. The shell is to be filled with the wisdom beings. This shell is your potential to be Varahi. And then the wisdom beings, the Jnanasattva, is the actuality of the state of being. When the potential and the actual becomes non-dual, that's when the deity has been produced. Then receiving empowerment, ripening this potential and actuality, to further kind of emphasize that you are Buddha, and so on and so forth. So this is creating, gradually following a sadhana. Then creating through the three rites. This is talking about a creation stage process where there are three steps. And then finally, there is the creating through instantaneous, perfect recollection. No need for the step by step. And because, why? Because you have already rehearsed the first two types of creation stage, and has become so easy now, right? You can instantaneously experience yourself as deity, as a point of training. And so these are the three types of creation stage. The essence, what is the key point? What is the key point of creation stage as a technique, as a method? What is the key point? Is to turn back ordinary conceptualizations on the one hand, to turn back ordinary conceptualizations, conceptual thoughts, all those thoughts and emotions that are produced from the kleshas, based on the subject-object construction and lack of understanding of the nature of this object and subject, and thinking the subject is me, object is somewhere out there, not recognizing that the object out there is a projection of the subject in here, and the subject in here is constantly being reinforced by that projection, and therefore we say they are non-dual. In many other places, Gampopa addresses this aspect more, and that has to do with mahamudra instructions. But even here, right, in creation stage, some mahamudra understanding is essential. So here it says to turn back ordinary conceptualizations on the one hand, and to clarify your essence as deity. Elsewhere, it's called co-emergent Dharmakaya and co-emergent radiance of the Dharmakaya. The radiance is the conceptualizations. The essence is Dharmakaya. And so here, in the language of creation stage, language used is deity. The vocabulary is deity. So the essence, the key point in training in creation stage is to transform, to turn back. Turn back has this connotation of it's a mistake. So dial it down, turn it around, turn it back. Turn back conceptualizations is you could say, the outer aspect. The inner aspect is to clarify your status as deity, to make more clear, more clear, more clear, more clear. Third, definition. And here the definition has three parts. The mind and the body now created as deity. Next, clarifying body and mind as deity. So definition here means let's unpack this essence. Then what we're talking about is transform both your concepts of your body and mind, transform your concept of who you are, into that of a deity, of a Buddha, then clarify that. And clarify means keep refining that until it becomes more and more convincing that this is deity. In order to do that, right, what do you need to do? What is a necessary condition for achieving this result? You have to give up the opposite, which is the klesha-based view of I, me, mine. You have to give that up. You have to have some determination. I'm done with samsara. I'm done with identifying that which is not self as self, that which is unreliable as where I'm going to put all my hopes on, that which is painful as pleasurable. I want to get annoyed. Again, so often, we say, I have a hard time visualizing. And that's just method. The method serves a purpose. Can you get to the purpose? The purpose is found in the foundational matters. That's why Kyobaji Densungen especially famously said, whereas others consider, the advanced teachings to be profound, I consider the foundational teachings to be truly profound. It's not just a cute saying to trick you into doing your 100,000s, which is how lamas usually who quote this quote tend to use it. Trick you into committing to doing your 100,000s, because the word ngondro turns up in this saying. But ngondro doesn't mean 100,000s. Ngondro means foundational matters. And the foundational matters are truly profound because why? Because both the problem and the solution to the problem the Buddha gave right at the first teaching of the Four Noble Truths. That's the foundation of all Dharma practice. Vajrayana people get lost, lose their way, wandering off in some fanciful direction. Philosophy, people get lost in intricate philosophies. Partly all that stuff was developed to debate Hindus, in ancient India. Some of the kings are very demanding. In a way, it's good, If only today, we have patrons of Dharma saying things like, I will cut funding, I will impose tariffs if you cannot win the debate. So no guaranteed, support unless you can debate your way into convincing me that, your way is correct. So it encouraged, a very vibrant intellectual community. There are worse things, to get people committed to, which we are seeing unfolding these days. But in ancient times, these kings and emperors, they were also, kind of tyrants in other ways, doing whatever heck they want. But in one area, they said to the different competing religious groups, between religions, and then within one religion, different ideas, right? He says, okay, you guys debate. Kind of intellectually settle this matter. But these were not the only debates that they also sponsored. They also said, okay, you can win by doing intellectual debates. The other way you can win is doing magic. And so apparently there were also magical competition. So this is like the Indian Olympics, annual Olympics, is to get all the different religious groups, to debate. So Buddhism also developed a very robust philosophical debating tradition. But again, if we get lost in all of that and forget the Four Noble Truths, where the foundational points are all there, then we can wonder and wonder and wonder, in all these things and never get to the point. And so, this foundational matter. And so here it says to clarify body and mind as deity. First, to create, to create in a way, right? You're not creating because you already are, but on the experiential level, you are creating an experience first. Yeah? In a way, you have to contrive. So there is a recognition that, especially at the beginning of training in creation stage, after all, it's called creation stage, but that is based on the Buddha says, you create your suffering and happiness. Why is called creation stage? It's deeper than just how many deities, how many arms, how many color, left face is what, right face is this. We get so carried away in trying to get clarity about that, but we completely miss the foundational matters. Why is it even called creation stage? A deeper point is, can you see that there is no independently existing reality out there whereby you try to fit yourself into, or you cannot fit yourself into and you want to run away from? This is the theistic view. This is the dualistic view. There is a reality out there, and we try to insert ourselves into it to either fit nicely, or if not fit nicely, run away from it or try to destroy it. Here it's saying reality, our experience of happiness and suffering is based on our creation. Hence, creation stage. There are no alternatives. You either create samsara or you create nirvana. Of course, the actual status of nirvana is uncreated. So in that sense, you are not creating yourself to become a Buddha. You are a Buddha. But on the subjective level, right now, we have signed everything over to the project of creating samsara and reinforcing samsara. Unless you're ready to sign a different agreement, then all your efforts will go towards that mistaken contract. And so, definition of creation stage is to create body and mind as deity, and then to clarify body and mind as deity. There's a third step, understanding that the mind created as a deity. Here, even though it only says mind, you should understand it's talking about body and mind. Here is a translation issue. I think we could improve the translation. And the understanding that this deity that arises because you have trained your mind, that's really what it means. This deity that now has been created and has been stabilized as your identity, yeah? And this is done where? This is done through training your mind. That this is but a verbal expression. This is the interesting part. But this is also the hinting at the completion stage. This is the wisdom aspect. Remember turning back appearances, yeah, as the essence of what we're doing. turning back ordinary conceptualizations. That is, how do you do that? You create yourself as body and mind as deity, and you clarify body and mind as deity. Then, clarifying the essence as deity. How do you do that? By understanding that even this deity created is a concept, which is what it means by a verbal expression. It's concept. Now you become truly deity, appearing vividly, yet lacking in essence. Lacking in essence, yet vividly appearing. This is the third of the 6 parts on creation stage. Bien? So now you all have to write a paragraph of what you heard. Do it for yourself. If you are confident enough, send that paragraph to me. I will promise you I won't grade it. A promise that I can easily keep. Write a paragraph, of what you just heard. Remember, yeah, I think Mark Twain or some famous writer like that said in a letter to a friend, pardon the length of this letter. I don't have time to write a shorter letter. So, one paragraph, that's your homework. It's perfectly fine. Don't send it to me. But if you send it to me, yeah, that's good too. Then next week, when I start the other 3 of the 6, you take the paragraph out and you look at it again. And this paragraph should serve as a prompt for you to remember what has been taught.